Hey, did you know in a few short Sundays, you're going to have football every Sunday from now through February? You seen these tweets these last couple of days? I know you have some variety of that. I just want to tell these people, don't you have anything to do for a few Sundays? You know what you should be doing? Looking at season-long props and season-long futures and season-long win totals, because that's what I'm going to be giving you today. I'm going to give you my favorite 3 win totals on the AFC side, and then in a couple days, I'll go ahead and give you my favorite from the NFC. But I'm going to give you 3 in particular that I really like going into this year. Now, don't forget, that extra game is only a few seasons in. It still feels weird when you see a win total. You think if you see 9.5, like, oh, that's a 10-win team. They got to go 10-6. No, 10-7. That extra game makes those win totals seem a little weird. It's just something to keep in the back of your head when you're thinking about teams that you like when it comes to win totals. One thing you're definitely going to like is a $1,000 risk-free bet, and that's exactly what you're going to get from BetMGM. If you're a new user and you go there right before this NFL season and place any bet, your first one's going to be risk-free up to $1,000. I wish I can do some identity theft so I can be a new person and use it every single week, but I can't. It's just me. So anyway, on to my favorite AFC win totals. I'm going to start with my absolute favorite one. Give me the Denver Broncos under 10 wins as my favorite bet. There's a couple of reasons here. The first being that division. That division, every single team, for the most part, it's the same units that have been playing together for a minimum of 2 years when you're looking at like Herbert. But you're talking about the Chiefs, the Raiders, who have now added Adams, and then the Chargers. So you're looking at those 3 teams whose foundations feel the foundation. I can't stop myself from doing that. But the foundation and core of those teams have been in place. This is just a continuation of what has been these last couple of years. And none of those teams are bums. So yeah, you're going to be adding Russell Wilson to this Denver team. But think about Brady's first year with the Bucs. They looked real bad towards the beginning. And people forget they needed to muster up a win streak at the end of the year just to get to, 10 wins, or did they weasel to 11? And that was with a real cake schedule towards the end of the year. And then I look at the potential early season struggles. When you look at their easy matchups, they're all towards the beginning of the year. And if you play fantasy, if you've gambled on sports, the worst time you can get a bad team is when they have belief, and that's early in the season. So you may look at their schedule and say, oh, well, that should be a win, that should be a win. But when you're talking about a new team that hasn't played a lot together, and nowadays when teams don't really play during the preseason, look for Denver to get off to a relatively mediocre start. And if they do that, you've won the bet, because their schedule later on gets really hard. And it's not like Russell Wilson didn't have people to work with last year. He's not as mobile as he used to be. I don't know if we're looking at the Russell Wilson of a couple of years back. You factor all that in, and it reeks of under 10. They got to hit 11 for you to lose that. I think worst case scenario, what? You push with 10. So Denver Broncos are going to be my favorite one. Next, we're going to go to the Titans. A great thing about me / not great, I don't pay attention to so many other people's takes and what they feel, because I think it clouds your own judgment. You know, you'll have some of that paralysis by analysis. So if people say this, fine, but when I'm looking at the Tennessee Titans, they were the 1 seed last year, and they did it mostly without Derrick Henry. And if you're going to look at someone, oh, but they lost A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, this guy plays a handful of games every year. He's one of these leaky hamstring guys, and they were able to win mostly without him, without Henry. So despite what you think of the roster, that team seems to always string together wins. And if you feel uncomfortable taking them at 9, I don't know why. Do you know that they've had at least 9 wins in like the last 5 seasons straight, going back to like the Mariota days? I'm probably like you when you saw Vrabel taking over, like, come on, Mike Vrabel over here, but we got to give credit where it's due. We can't be credit refusers. He's done a good job. The defense always seems to elevate even when the personnel isn't there. I'm going to take them for 9 or more. Like I said with the last one, I think worst case scenario, you're pushing. Look at that division. You get 2 games against the Jags, 2 games against the Texans. They always probably were destined to split with the Colts. I mean, that's a great way to start. You think they can't go through one good stretch throughout this season? And we'll see if Henry's health holds up. I always feel like once you get that first injury, then the next year comes another one. And that's actually going to take me to my final pick, the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to be taking the under 9.5 with those Ravens because just like I gave a quick tease about, I feel like Derrick Henry may get another injury this year. I feel that when the injuries start, it's like an undefeated boxer losing his first fight. They're never the same after it because I don't know if it's mentally or what it may be. Someone's more tentative. Even going back to Russell Wilson, look at him. He seems less likely to run than he was in his earlier years. And I believe, unfortunately, this is just a sniff on my part. You've seen this with guys like Cam Newton, RG3 after the injury. You've seen it with Rodgers earlier in his career until he strung together a couple healthy years. Those injuries tend to come back to back, and it seems like when you miss the end of the year, you don't just come back and play 16 games, and especially with Lamar's style, I foresee Lamar missing up to 6 games this season. And God forbid, you don't want to predict injuries, you don't want to hope for injuries, obviously, unless you're sick, which I know many of you are. Many of you are sick. I'm pretty sick too. However, I foresee Lamar not playing the full allotment of games, which is going to really help this under 9.5. 9.5 is pretty tough. That's pretty tough to hit. And when you look at that division, that's no cakewalk division. You have Cincinnati, who made it to the Super Bowl. Steelers are always going to be a tough defensive out. And it's a huge rivalry games in division. Anyone can win anytime. You know this. And then you're looking at the Browns. I forget exactly when they play them. I don't know if it's pre-Deshaun, post-Deshaun, but same type of thing. They always play those Ravens tough, and that running game likes to get going against them, so we will see. But I'm going to take the under 9.5 on Baltimore. So those are my 3 favorite over-under win totals. Weird way to word it, but I got under 10 for the Denver Broncos. I got over 9 for the Tennessee Titans, and then under 9.5 for the Baltimore Ravens. So we'll see how that pans out. The beautiful thing about giving you season-long futures, there's no way you can be that angry at me for months. And then at that point, it's going to be tough to get people behind you. You're just going to have to DM me, and but I like these. I always go for meatloaf with my bets, and for the new bettors out there, meatloaf means 2 out of 3 because 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm hoping to hit 2 out of 3, maybe 3 out of 3, maybe a push. That's what I'm hoping for here. 2-0-1 or 1-0-2, but we want to be winning money with the majority of these. We'll see if that happens. I'll be back with you to talk NFC win totals. I guess I'll talk to you then. I'll see you then.